I think there's many reasons. The clinician scientists have been, numbers have been falling for many years, and has been recognized by the NIH and European agencies as well as Canadian agencies over the last 30 years. It's manyfold. One, funding issues, I think is a significant problem, and that clinician scientists, although they have a significant clinical responsibility, have to compete at the same level as a full-time basic scientist or full-time non-wet bench scientist, and that makes it more difficult. That's one reason. I think the other thing is, as medicine gets more complex, it's hard to be an expert in medicine as well as being an expert in basic science as well. Basic science is becoming more and more complex.
I think that what you're going to see is over time, people are going to have to be very specific as to the questions that they tackle. They're going to have to become more and more so-specialized and try to develop their own niches. I think that it's going to be very difficult for clinician scientists to follow the model that you had, say, 30, 40 years ago, where you could run your own lab and run, say, for example, a general internal medicine laboratory where you could do some immunology here, some cancer here, some GI versus respirology. You can see that already happening, where we're becoming more and more so specialized, and yeah, the clinician scientists of the future are going to have to be very selective.
On top of being a clinician and a scientist, I'm also the director of the Leaders in Medicine program at the University of Calgary. This program is a program where we have students that are pursuing joint careers or joint studies in an MD and then something else. Traditionally it's MD and PhD, MD, MSc, but we've actually had students come through with an MD and MBA. We've had people do MD engineering, MD law, MD philosophy. We now have a student doing MD English studies. So very diverse background. In regards to clinician scientists education and development, I think what's key about this is that one of the problems is in both medicine and research, things change so quickly that if you don't keep up and you don't keep immersed in it, you can actually lose your skills. And so somebody comes in with a PhD and then does 3 years of med school and 3 years of residency and 3 years of subspecialty, may actually fall out of their ability to do research and think in a research way. And so we try and get them engaged and try and get them involved in some research and talking to other researchers about a future as a clinician scientist. And so we give them mentorship, we allow them to meet with their peers, both locally as well as nationally and internationally at times, to pursue more research and to try and further their career as a clinician scientist. I think mentorship and continued mentorship all the way through their training is really critical. Because unfortunately what happens is these students often, when they finish their PhD, their mentor is gone. They start med school, they don't have a mentor. They go into residency, a different mentor shows up in their life. And we're trying to continue to get sort of a mentorship flow to enhance the ability of these students to keep their interest in both areas. Because that's really what it takes to be a clinician scientist, is to be able to think in the clinical domain as well as in the basic science domain. And the longer you do that and the more experience you have, I think the better chance you have at being a successful clinician scientist.
The importance of being part of the Snyder Institute for Chronic Diseases for me, as a person who wants to become a clinician scientist, is the fact that I'm surrounded by clinician scientists and they're able to mentor me on a daily basis. People like Paul Beck, I get to see him every day in the hallways, and I'm able to stop him and ask him questions about my research and how does my basic science research relate to what he sees in the clinical practice. He's able to give me insights about what he sees in the clinical practice, so that I may go back to the bench and figure out if I can replicate some of those findings at the bench and apply them back to the bedside.